Thank you. I don't think Amy's here. Amy Burke was the next one. So could we move to the Christchurch Estuary Association? I understand that Murray and his wife couldn't come. Derek Keenan is here in his place. Sorry, what's Murray's wife's name? I was looking at you and I thought, gosh, Murray's lost a lot of weight.
He has lost a lot of weight.
Yeah, but is he well? Is he?
No, he's seriously ill.
He's seriously ill, yeah, I'd heard that. So could you give him my regards?
Will do.
Please do, yeah.
Yeah. My name's Derek Keenan. I'm Secretary of the Christchurch Estuary Association. We were formed as a body in the 1970s, incorporated in 2002. Our object, really since then, have been to act on behalf of the members as a guardian and advocate for the Avon Heathcote Estuary, to promote protection and enhancement of the estuary and the landscapes and streams and channels that drain into it, so that people and natural biota can enjoy its full benefits in perpetuity. And thirdly, to monitor the impact of human activity on the estuary and its environment and seek to eliminate or minimise any adverse impact. With regard to the submission that was drawn up actually by Sandra in consultation with the members, I think it basically says what we need to say, but really I came to answer any questions or...
Yep. So you'd like to go straight to questions?
Yeah.
Well, I was going to ask the difference between the Christchurch Estuary Association and the Avon Heathcote Estuary Ihutai Trust, who we heard from just before. I mean, a number of the issues that you've raised are pretty much on a par. So I just wondered why the two organisations.
Well, if I can go back to when Roger Lusby sort of stood aside from the Christchurch Estuary Association and formed the Friends of the Estuary as more or less as an educational tool or an educational department. And from that, the Ihutai Trust virtually developed out of the Friends of the Estuary. The Estuary Association stayed there, if you like, as a protection society or protection body, looking at anybody that wanted to set up commercial activities that infringed on the estuary, or people that thought, oh yes, we could put a slipway here or we could put a jetty sticking out there. We wanted to keep the estuary as substantially the same as it is and always has been. Mm. And that's one of the real reasons why we really want to see a hard edge, if you like, put around South New Brighton reserves and the spit. The amount of erosion that's taking place in there is quite phenomenal, quite substantial, and all that silt and stuff that's washing away from the edges is just filling the estuary in.
If I may say,
yeah.
Mayor David's on that trust, I'm on the other trust, and I think there's just a difference in approach. I think the previous one perhaps looks at a soft edge approach, and you look at a hard edge approach. It's just a difference in history. Dan was just asking the difference between the two estuary trusts, David, so you might be able to explain.
Come in on this, sir.
Oh, right.
So, I mean, there's a lot of, obviously, a lot of work to be done in terms of the next stage of the natural hazards chapter, which will be looking at coastal erosion and coastal inundation, and that impacts on that area quite significantly. We've had representations around the reinstatement of the sea walls, but after exploring the issue with people, the idea of something that's further inland, a bund to protect the houses and the streets is seen as a more sustainable measure in that regard, rather than the reinstatement of a seawall.
What we're really looking at, and that was one of the other parts, was in putting a pathway from Ferrymead round the edge of the, or through the windsurf area, past the drainage boards or the wastewater treatment plant, and linking back over the South Brighton Bridge to a pathway that runs virtually from the bow, or further north from Travis, really right through to the estuary. But what we want to see is that path kept on the edge so that people can see the water and can walk along the edge of the water, if you like, not walking 30, 40, 50 metres inland. I think one of the news items that's come out in the last couple of days has been regarding flooding through South Brighton reserves and through the campground. And in reality, if you don't protect that flooding's going to accentuate and spread further, even in the campgrounds. It'll be out into Estuary Road and down on the south shore, it'll be through onto the Rock and Horse Road.
Yeah, I mean, these are challenging issues, and we're talking 50 years, in terms of...
We realise Rome wasn't built in a day.
No, that's true.
Financial constraints are paramount.
Yeah.
But so we have to look. I mean, we're looking at a 10-year plan.
Yeah. And
surely we can envisage seeing incremental stages.
Yeah, I think that, you've commented about the installation of a tidal barrier too, and waiting with interest to see if the results of the pre-feasibility report consider the increased flooding risk outweigh the environmental impacts, not to mention the financial costs. And actually, that's exactly the argument, the debate that we'll be having about all of the other issues. It's a question of balance. How do you weigh up the increased flood risk, the environmental impacts, and the financial costs? And they all have to be weighed up. Yeah. So, I think you put that perfectly, really. I don't think you could put it better. And it is the challenge that we face in all of these decisions.
Well, the association has been there since a flood barrier was mooted.
At the time of the Woolston Cut, I know. Yeah.
We've been around long enough to know the impact of the Woolston Cut when it was left open, and the surge that dug big deep holes either end of it and had to be filled in with truckload after truckload of boulders from the Waimak, and the gates shut so that the Heskett reverted back to its course, and the cut's only opened in emergency now and for short term, not left open like it was when it was first developed.
Yeah. Yep. So, David, did you have a question?
Oh, look, I just wanted to add to the mix of environmental effects, leisure and recreation, and the thing that I really wanted to add was the expectation of local residents in that area for adequate flood protection, which is, I think, something that's been at the bottom end of the scale at the moment, so I certainly want to see that elevated.
Yeah, and the point that I was making was that it may not be that the request for the seawall, the hard end on the estuary, a bond further in, a bund
I totally
further...
agree. That's a distinct opportunity to perhaps provide flooding protection for that area, and perhaps also accommodate a natural edge to the estuary as well. So,
I think you can get both.
For the South Shore spit. But I think in the South Brighton Domain area, there's a conflict of interest there in terms of providing adequate protection for sport and recreation users without risking the silting up of the estuary in that area, which will prevent yachting particularly having a long-term future.
And there are so many issues in that regard. I mean, and the one that sort of probably hasn't been mentioned here, but was mentioned, I think, the other day, where somebody asked the question as to why the trees died in South Brighton, and it was because of the salt water inundation underneath. Yeah. So, you know, they can't. I mean, it tells you the environment that has been created there since the earthquakes.
Yeah. Well, I've been a member of Pleasant Point Yacht Club for some 65 years, and where we're situated now, we noticed a distinct erosion in 2 weeks from one Sunday sailing to sailing a fortnight later. And that there's a seat sitting there that had about that much land in front of it. A fortnight later, it had that much land in front of it.
Yep, yep. We've got very good measures of the damage that's been done now. Another
fortnight and that seat will be in the
drink. Look, thank you very much for coming, and do pass on my regards